that, during that time, I was through Twitter and I found Chantel's speech and Reyes and Daphne's letter and found about team tributing. So I had reached out around that time to see if how we can incorporate team tributing with the organization that I work for. So during that time, we did some things. 2 of the board members came out and attended our event, and it was a success. We had over 90 people show up. But after that, mostly I was inspired from Chantel's story when she was speaking about her story with Edie Whistler. When she spoke at the Drawing for Hope event, I believe it was. And I was inspired because looking as a person who's not a celebrity, as a person who's not on TV all the time, sometimes we look at a person on the TV and we think they're perfect. They have no story. There's nothing wrong with them. That's sometimes how we think, just because we have our own stuff that we're going through. And when I heard her tell her story, it's not that I already didn't know, but it woke something up in me to think they're human. They have their own struggles. They have their own stories. And her story, even though her story is different from mine, I was inspired to tell my own story. My story is that, unfortunately, at the age of 5, I was sexually abused by the husband of my aunt. And even though, again, the story is completely different, I had not told my story to anybody other than my parents knowing and close friends and partners. And my parents didn't even come to find out until I was in 7th grade. And this happened when I was between the ages of 4 and 5. And for so long, I don't want to say suppressed it because it was always with me. It was always something that I thought about. I could literally, till this day, tell you exactly how the room smelled, exactly how everything felt. And it was such a traumatic experience. But growing up for 27 years, from the age of 5 to last year, I never confronted the situation. I never went to a counselor. I never talked about it with my parents. It oppressed me, and I was alone with it, and I was in silence with it. And hearing Chantel's story, and during that time, also Team Judy was coming out with a newsletter, and they wanted to know if there were any other stories out there that anybody wanted to tell. And I said, for me, it was the Holy Spirit for me. It was my faith that it said it was time to tell my story. And I wrote it to Meriam through email, and nobody in my family knew that I had written this story. 90% of my family had no idea this had happened, other than my close friends and family. And from there, they were just like, wow, we didn't even know this happened, and the news story came out, or the newsletter came out. And I started a blog back then because I wanted to hear what anybody else wanted to, what they had to say about my story. And from the blog, I had close friends that I never knew the same situation had happened to them. Or just random people that knew me on Facebook or Twitter. They also started contacting me and said, I have a story to tell you. And I'm not going to tell anybody else. You're the only person I'm going to tell. And literally I've had so many stories come from my story. And my hope was that when I came out with my story, just like Chantel, was that it would inspire at least one person or help one person through their own struggle. And sure enough, people just started coming out of nowhere. Either it happened to them for years or it happened to them one time. And again, from there, I started my own kind of movement called DearTayrin. And I named it DearTayrin because I wanted it to be something inviting. I wanted it to be something that if somebody had a story to tell, that they could tell me privately through a letter or through email, or they can say it publicly. Either way, but that it would be something inviting for them, to be able to come to me and feel at home, to be able to trust me, that I would never tell their story on unless they wanted to tell it on. And sure enough, since then, I was reached out by a summer program, and we did a 6-week session with young girls, ages of 12 to 15, and there was about 15 girls, and they were refugees. And during those, every week was an emotional week. And it saddened me in regards to their struggles, that you don't think that these young girls, or these young girls shouldn't be going through these questions that they have. And literally, it was either their stories from sexual abuse or sex trafficking, or sexual assault, or sexual harassment, or self-esteem. It was all the stories that came out in those 6-week sessions. Every single week, there was one girl coming out, or 2 girls coming out with their stories. So out of the 15 girls, we had about 12 girls that came out with their own struggles. And what saddened me the most is that a lot of these girls felt they couldn't even go to their parents to tell them their own story. They felt like because of their countries, because this situation is so common in their countries, that it was common here for them too, that they didn't have a voice here, that they can't speak about it, because if they do speak about it, nothing's going to be done about it. So with that, I tried to tell them, listen, you do have a voice. It doesn't matter. You know, if you feel you can't go to your parents, go to somebody who will listen. And I think that was like the whole empowering within. It empowered me with my voice to go forward. And DearTayrin has been a success in the last year, and this is really going to be like the year of since Team Beauty. So it's been a surreal kind of moment for me, because for me, with my voice, I wanted to be able to inspire somebody, be able to say that everybody in some way has some kind of story, and we shouldn't let it define us, nor let it control our life. We should be able to grab a hold of it, and we should be able to confront it, endure the pain at the moment when you're confronting, but then you forgive yourself, and you forgive whoever it is that did whatever to you. And forgiving doesn't mean that you have to go to that person face to face. This means you forgive them within yourself. And at that moment, there's a power in that freedom that you can finally let go and move forward with your life. That it no longer, now you control it. And that was mainly, that's what I do with DearTayrin, is I try to do support groups. So we're trying to do support groups now, and online, you know, just talking online. I've met so many people after Team Beauty. It's just been like connection after connection with different places who love. And it's all about empowering and loving each other and motivating each other. And I love about the quote from Team Beauty that you quoted, actually, that went something along the lines of not fighting against each other.
Not competing. We should be sisters and friends instead of competing with each other.
Exactly.
Lifting.
And that's how I feel about all organizations, non-for-profits, or other organizations that are trying to do things that should be competing against each other. We're all here together to make a better tomorrow. And
what's the future for it?
Right now, just
this year.
So this year, I'm going to be starting like coffee time support groups for victims. Not really including the family, just wanted to be the victims because I wanted them to be able to speak freely. I feel like victims a lot of times will speak better. Sometimes they don't want their family to know certain things about what happened to them. Till this day, my mom doesn't know everything completely that happened to me that day. It's very hard for her to hear the story. So I feel like there's that space, that close, you know, having a close-knit group and just being able to talk about stuff like that. We have, last year I did an event for DearTayrin where we had an awareness event at a coffee shop. We had like 5 musicians. We had over 50 attendees. And we had my story. And then we also had 2 stories that came out publicly for the first time. And one specifically, this girl that came out with her story that she had never told anybody. It was a situation that had happened for her for years. Her parents came to support her, and at the event, out of nowhere, she was just like, I want to tell my story. And I said, let's go, you know, and I said, I'll stand right next to you, you know, if you need me, and I'm there. And sure enough, she came, and she felt such relief from there. and still struggle for her, but it was finally, she had brought it to the public. She finally was able to speak about it.
And where are you based out of again?
Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo.
So it's been a great thing. And I say for 27 years after 5 years old, I literally was oppressed, I was silenced, and I was a victim. But now I'm a survivor.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's all about women's voices empowering one another. We can move mountains. So thank you, Tayrin, for coming out here.